In this video, we're going to learn how to make stairs. I'm going to show you a foolproof method for making perfect stairs every time. Before we start, first understand, as I've said in previous videos, that there has to be a harmony between your grid unit setting, the positions of your prims, and the sizes of your prims. If all three of those are not in harmony with each other, then it's not going to work. And so at the outset, I start with good sizes that are in relation to my grid unit, good positions which are in relation to my grid unit. So let's get started. My grid unit, as you just saw, is 0.025. So I work in relation to that with numbers that go 0, 25, 50, 75, 0, 0.25, 0.5, 0.75. It keeps repeating, and I use those numbers over and over again to facilitate perfect alignment. And because my grid unit is 0.025, then it is in line with that particular methodology. So, knowing that, let's go ahead and create a box on the ground, or the floor in this case. We have a floor that we're standing on, and we have another floor which is above, and we'll call that the second floor. Yes, I know that people in Europe call this the first floor, but in America we call it the second floor, so that's what I'm going to call it. So anyway, we've got our prim here, right? It's a box. We want to start crude, so don't let this throw you. I'm just going to make the stair prim 2.5 to the y, and that's going to be our stair prim. Now, there's something that I'm doing here that I want you to understand. First, I make sure that the floor prims are the same height. In this case, they're 0.5. So my stair is going to be the same height as well. So I make sure that that's 0.5. And because I work with 0, 25, 50, and 75, the initial height of a box is 0.5, so that works out for me. I don't have to adjust that size at all. Okay, so now I want to position my stair where I want it. I usually start from the top and work my way down. So I start from the second floor, and there's a reason for that. If you start from the first floor and work your way up, you're going to have to move the stairway over to align it with the second floor anyway, so it doesn't make any sense to make yourself do that extra step, to me. Okay, so we align it where we want it. Now keep in mind we're trying to work mathematically with the height of the floor. We could align it like this as our first step, or we could move it down here. Now if we decide that we want it somewhere in the middle, like say halfway, that's going to put our bottom stair halfway into the floor, and it won't look right. So initially we're going to either set our first stair in line like this, or underneath in line like this. I like to do it this way, where it's in line with the ceiling, and that'll come into play later when I explain that. So let's go ahead and shift drag to copy, and we will make more stairs. And we'll just keep going here. What I'll do this time is shift select and shift drag to copy 3 of them instead of just doing one at a time. I'll move that down and over. And I want these corners to match up, so I make sure that's good. And I only need one more. So I'll do that. Now notice that that is in line with the floor. Now how did that happen? Well, that's because my lower floor is at 1000, my upper floor is at 1004. Each one of these is 0.5 in height. I have 7 stairs. 7 stairs times 0.5 is 3.5. I've put this here so you can see that 3.5 is the distance between the ceiling and the floor. So we've just created a stairway that matches the floor and the ceiling. Now that we've done that, after the fact, we can go back and adjust whatever we want. Say we want these to be 0.15. We can copy that using the copy button there and then paste it into the others. This way, once we get our alignment with the initial prim alignment, we can resize it and everything works out perfectly. Also, not only that, but check this out. Our stairs are at a perfect 45-degree angle. So that simple, we just made stairs. Now you could do some math and you could do some figuring and say, well, I know the height is this and I know the height is this and I know there's 4 meters in between, but if I want to align it with the actual ceiling and the floor, then I'm going to have to take 0.25 off of each one because the position is the center. So I have to take, this is 0.5, remember, I have to take 0.25 off here and 0.25 off here. That's going to equal it's 0.5 actually. 0.25 and 0.25 is 0.5, which you take off of 4, which is 3.5, which just so happens to be the distance between that. You could do it that way. You could math it out, but this method I just did shows you how to make the stairs perfectly. You don't have to calculate anything. You just have to make sure that your floor and your ceiling prims are the same height and that the initial prim that you used is the same height. And then you just put your stairs in and then size them afterwards, and then after that you can go in and add any sort of supports and things like that accordingly. And because it's working at a 45-degree angle, you could just take a prim, turn it at an angle of 45 degrees, and it'll match up as a support for this particular staircase or stairway. So math helps, but there are also methods you can use using prim size, prim position, and the grid to facilitate perfect stairs every time. Now you could distance these out farther when you're doing this by making the stair width a little wider and it would push them out farther. You could do that. But the height is what determines how it all works out perfectly. So anyway, that's that. Let's move on to our spiral staircase. In this case, I'm using the cylinder to facilitate a spiral staircase. This is a cut cylinder where I've taken and cut it. Let's drop this back to 0. You can see it's a full cylinder. I've cut it all the way up to 9.25, or 0.925 actually. Let me drop it down here. And then I copied it, right? And I moved it up. Initially, this was ½ meter in size. Just like I did with the other stairs, I start with a larger size that bumps into each other. And then to make the next prim, I copied this one, moved it up, and then I adjusted the cut. Notice that if I take this and set it to 1 and this to 0.925, it's the same one. But I drop this down and then I drop this down. And how I do that is I look at this one and I say, oh, this one is 0.925, so the start of this one needs to be 0.925 up here. Then this one's 0.85, so that one has to start at 0.85 here and go down. So you just keep doing that. And then if you make a few of them, you can copy them, just like I did before, shift drag, move them up, rotate them. But the problem with this is that because you're dealing with cuts, it's not going to match perfectly. So what you want is a 45-degree representation of a stair, whether it be 2 stairs or 3 stairs or 4 stairs. And then you can then copy that and rotate it. And then it'll align perfectly with the other stairs because you actually have your cuts at 45 degrees. And then how do you make the support? Well, that's just as simple as making a cylinder and putting it in the center here. And the center is the same for all of these because they're all cylinders. Now you could also take and make a hollow. Let's see, let's go 20. There we go, or 30. You can make hollow on all these and do it that way, and then we can move this back into place, and we could use like posts that go from there into the center, or we could just size this bigger. But you could do it all kinds of ways, but that's how you can make a spiral staircase using cylinders. Now this railing here is a torus that's been highly tweaked, and you can see all the settings here. It's basically experimentation. You take a torus, right, and you drop it on the ground, and what you're using to get your upward, your twist and your upward angle are skew. See how it's skewing it, and it's already mimicking that. To get the other direction, let's say your stairs were going the other direction, you just go in the positive direction instead, and it'll skew the other way. So then the other thing you want to do is you want to adjust these other settings. Like the profile cut is going to cut away part of the prim, and you want it to be something flat, right? So you can decide that maybe it looks like this. And how you determine how much of it there is you just adjust the cut one direction or the other to match your stairway. So you can cut it from both ends. And the other thing is, once you've got your first initial size, let's say you've got the first rotation here, then you can add revolutions to it, see? And then how you determine whether the railing matches the angle of the stairway is you adjust the height, see? And that's pretty much how you do it. That's how to make a simple railing. Then you can add posts that go into the stairs. And of course, the position of the railing is in line with the cylinder. But that's how you do your railings. And you want them high enough to where you can't walk over them. So you want to test it out and make sure that you can't walk over them. And that's fairly easy. You just make sure they're the right height, usually waist height or a little higher. And you want that to be consistent all the way around to the top. So what I would do is I would measure it from here to here using a prim, and then I would move that prim as I go up and make sure that the height is the same with every prim. And that way, in fact, you could, with your first 2 prims, before you copy them, you could make a post here, and that post, then you could copy that with the rest of it, and the posts would continue up, and you would have posts going all the way up. You wouldn't have to create them afterwards, and then you could align your torus to that so that it would match the posts perfectly. And that's how you do that. Now the other thing I was going to show you that I forgot is that you can also make stairs with what's called a cut box prim, like you would make a door if you've ever done that before, a swinging door. Notice that a prim swings or rotates from the center, right? Well, you want to cut it so that it looks like it's rotating from the side, but it's actually just a cut prim. And you can do that by going down here and doing a slice, and then rotating the prim, and then sizing it however you want it. So in this way, we have a swinging door, right? And the reason you do this is not only visually, but for, let's say you're going to use a prim that rotates by degrees on the z-axis. Then cutting that half off of that door makes it look like an actual door, and then the script can work with the door and make it look like a door by having it rotate on that z-axis. And since half of it is cut away, then it doesn't look like this, it looks like a door. So this same concept can be used to make spiral stairs. Oops, didn't mean to do that. Let me resize that out. We're rotating on the side here, right? So what you want to do is make your stair, and just like you did here, you can rotate it on its center. So we can shift drag, Control Z to put it back. We can just rotate it, bring it up, and do the same thing repeatedly. And we want to use snapping points, of course, because otherwise it's not going to work right. So you want the same distances between. And so just like we did over here, you could start with a larger height, and that way you can get the distance that you want between the stairs to be perfect and all that. So that's how you do that. And then typically in this situation, let me put this back the way it was. In this situation, since the stairs kind of look goofy like this, then that's where you would want to have one of these over here to the center of that to conceal the fact that it just doesn't look right. Now you could use any shape you want, but the cylinder facilitates that round spiral look. Anyway, to center that, you would then just copy this, paste this, right, and it's centered. And you can adjust the sizes accordingly. And the neat thing about these is you can just drag them out because, you know, however you want to size them. And of course you want to pay attention and snap and look at the numbers up above so they're all the same size. Or you could just get one, copy it, paste it to the others. And they're not going to move anywhere because they're cut in half. That other invisible half is over here, but it's not seen. So you're actually dealing with prims that act like the cylinders do. Now there is one other thing that I wanted to show you that I forgot. You can take a cylinder, right, like this one here, and you can resize it like this, and you can put it over here. And let's say you're going to continue the stairs. Let me take this hollow out of here. Say you're going to continue the stairs. Let me set this to the same. It's going to continue. Let me set this to. There we go. The stairs are going to continue on in this direction, right? All you got to do is align this with this where it looks good, and then you of course take these and you copy them however many you need, and then you would move those to be down below. I'm just eyeballing it here. Let me get it over here. Move these down below in line with this, and then you've got your continuation of your stairway like that. Something like that. You get the idea. You could do that to get your transition, or you could, of course this could be square, or you could make it multiples so it's like a gradual step effect around the corner there. And those are some ideas that you can use for your own stairs. Also, you can use that method that I did in another video to make railing around this. I shift drag, whoops, and I just align this with that, and that way I know it's centered. Then I can take these two, select them, and then rotate them, and that would give me a railing there, a railing post there, a railing post there, a railing post there, you know, however you want to put it. Of course this would be a smaller size, of course, but that gives you the rotation you need in perfect alignment with that curve. So you would pick points, snapping points, that make sense for your railing posts. And then of course you would put maybe cut a cylinder or hollow it like this, 90, and then that could be your railing. But I've shown that in a previous video. Anyway, that is it. Hopefully you learned something. I'll see you on the next one.